The Municipal Library Elevator Coup, also known as the Elevator Coup of the 28th of January 1908 coup, was the name given for the attempted coup d'etat by members of the Portuguese Republican Party and Progressive Dissidency against the administrative dictatorship of Prime Minister João Franco. The event was not confined to the Municipal Library Elevator, but was so named for the arrest of many conspirators at the structure on the afternoon of January 28, 1908. Although the coup was prevented by government forces, it failed to capture all the conspirators, which contributed to the assassination of the monarch Carlos I of Portugal and the heir to the throne, the Prince Royal, Luís Filipe. These events would continue legislative instability and lead to the Portuguese First Republic, the raison d'être of the coup conspirators. Background: since King Carlos I of Portugal had decided to support the liberal regenerator leader João Franco and allow him to run the government as an administrative dictatorship, the parties in the Cortes had vocally rebelled. The traditional parties were the most critical, since they were fearful of losing the political clout within the rotativist system that existed. The Progressive Dissidency, who had been created exclusively by José Maria de Alpoim to obtain power, was likewise positioned in a way to remain on the fringes of power. Although it was officially monarchist, the party and its leader were willing to abandon its platform and scruples in order to align itself with the Portuguese Republican Party, at the time a radical group of socialists, anarchists and nationalists intent on taking power by force. João Franco was also interested in marginalizing the Republicans, by co-opting many of the planks of the other parties in order to form a program that would remove the political instability that existed and maintain power. The election of April 5, 1908, which could have ushered in a legislative victory for João Franco's liberal regenerators, and possibly install a functional parliament, united the leaders of the Dissidency and Republican Party in a conspiracy to take power by force. For this the Dissidency provided the money and arms, and the Republicans, with the contacts within Portuguese secret societies, would provide the men. Plans. Originally, the conspirators hoped to force the abdication of the King Carlos I, but decided on proclaiming a republic as the better goal. Various versions of the plan existed, although they all shared the same goal of removing the dictator João Franco without forcing the intervention of the military, and thus escalating the conflict into a civil war. In its final version, brigades of Carbonaria would neutralize the lines of communication, the mounted cavalry in the Largo de Carmo, the municipal guard in the Largo dos Loios, the barracks in the Cabico de Bola, and the naval officers in the Vale de Zebo, while the remaining conspirators would take the municipal office buildings and eliminate João Franco. On January 27, 1908, the plan to remove the dictator was approved by Afonso Costa and Francisco Correa Heredia for both groups of dissidents. Meanwhile, other conspirators were not only interested in removing João Franco, but also eliminating the king. This change in plans is harder to pinpoint, but a recent study points to the end of 1907. José Maria Alpoim, who were associated with members of the Carbonaria, was responsible for a plan to acquire arms, promulgate a revolution, and two plans to execute the Prime Minister and the monarch. Whether Republican leaders were aware of these plans is unclear. The relationships that existed between the conspirators and instigators of the coup were later suppressed, but these competing motivations likely played a part in the disorganization on the eve of the coup, which was planned for either January 31 or February 1. Regardless, the confidence of the conspirators was so high that a shop owner, Vitor dos Santos, attempted to bribe a police officer to join the conspiracy. The officer, after seeing a box of explosives reported of the conspiracy to his superiors. Informed of the possible conspiracy in the works, João Franco ordered the imprisonment of Republican leader Antonio José de Almeida, the Carbon area head Luz de Almeida, the Republican journalist João Chagas and other suspects, as well as ordering the reinforcement of strategic points throughout Lisbon. Attempted coup. With the leadership of the movement almost decapitated, it fell to Afonso Costa to salvage the group's plans. The government had placed many sites under observation and the military was supported by government forces. A few, still belligerent conspirators, attempted to attack these forces in the Bairro of Raito, in the civil parish of Alcantara, at the Campo de Santana and along the Rua da Escola Politecnica. One policeman was killed. Alfredo Costa, supported by members of the Progressive Dissidency, took the positions under the conspirators' plan. At the Municipal Library Elevator. The Municipal Elevator, also known as the Library Elevator or Elevator of São Julião, was the seventh public elevator to be constructed in Lisbon. It was inaugurated on January 12, 1897 under the supervision of its designer, Raul Mesnia de Poncet, and operated until 1915 when it was permanently taken out of service. It connected the Largo da Biblioteca near the Municipal Library with the Municipal Square, Largo de São Julião, through the buildings at 13 Largo de S. Julião and the terrace of the Palacio de Visconde de Carouche, waiting for confirmation from the leadership to execute the plans, and hopeful of a turn in the events. Many of the remaining conspirators begin to congregate at the elevator. Their appearance was scrutinized by a policeman, who became suspicious because the elevator was ostensibly out of service. Calling for reinforcements, a group of officers detained and arrested the group of men, which included Afonso Costa, Antonio Gasmones, Alvaro Popa, Francisco Correa de Heredia and others. While José Maria de Alpoim was able to escape to Spain, in all 100 people arrested during the crackdown, including the Viscounts of Pedralva and Emil, João Pinto dos Santos, Cassiano Neves and Batalla de Freitas. The coup was crushed. Aftermath. With the coup conspirators imprisoned, the king signed a decree to establish sentences of exile or expulsion to the colonies for those individuals caught for countervening regulations. If public order in order to perpetuate the semblance of order, the king and royal family returned to the capital on February 1, 1908, following a route through the Terreiro de Paco until the Palacio das Necessidades. But, even with leadership imprisoned, the square was circled by gunmen of the Carbon area who assassinated the king and Prince Royal in what became known as the Lisbon Regicide. Although João Franco was physically spared, he was held responsible for lack of police security and a naive overconfidence that allowed the monarch to travel in an uncovered landau. Although the coup failed, the death of the king and heir apparent was responsible for continuing instability, which was ultimately a success for the Republicans. The traditional parties were able to impose an acclamation solution, with the establishment of a unity government presided by an independent, the ostracizing of João Franco's supporters, and the repeal of Francis decrees. In fact, the acclamation policies was a rendition. Many of the conspirators were liberated from prison, the assassins were eulogized as martyrs and the criminal investigation was rendered ineffective. These events only encouraged the Republicans to attempt another coup d'état 1833 months later, led by the same people, that would succeed in establishing the Portuguese First Republic. The events that gave rise to the attempted coup on January 28 were the last attempts to reform the constitutional monarchy.